Mr. Crippwell, as one of the few Union Miniere people to be allowed out of Lubumbashi, could you just sort of explain what is the situation between the government and the company?
Well, it's a completely confused picture, because the Congolese government changes its mind and its attitude from day to day. It originally started on December 23rd, when Union Miniere said it was not going to move into the Congo, and the negotiations had obviously broken down. The following week, they gave permission to all Union Miniere employees to work for the new company, which the Congolese had set up immediately on receiving the news on the 23rd, until further arrangements could be made. About January the 10th, I suppose, the Congolese government then put forward their proposals to employees. And then on the 17th of January, Union Miniere produced its proposals. And either you could sign for the new company, accept the terms offered on the 10th of January, or you could opt for repatriation plus compensation. The compensation was quite good, in actual fact. 6 months' pay, varying between 6 months' pay and 24 months' pay, depending on seniority. My case was a little bit special in that I was on contract. I wasn't a career employee of Union Miniere. I was on contract to set up the television service, the educational television services. And there were 2 pilots on the same conditions. And our contracts were terminated on the 31st of December, and we were neither given compensation by Union Miniere or offered new jobs with the new company. We were offered repatriation, obviously, and all the rest of it, the other offers that they had made to the employees. And so we didn't feel that we were bound by any of this negotiation. Now, the Congolese government obviously are faced with a problem of personnel. This is the most important factor involved in running the mines. If they lose the personnel, they either lose everything or they manage to replace these personnel. Well, up until Monday night, only 3 people of the 1,650-odd employees of Union Miniere had signed for the new company. There were about 40 outstanding, and I understand that the final figure was 16 who were prepared to stay on. Now, the Congolese government said that they could hold employees for 12 months under international law, or until they were replaced. I don't know.
They didn't specify what international law this was?
No, nobody knows this. They just said it was international law that they could hold you. As far as Union Miniere was concerned, people were going to continue working there until they could get them out, if they had opted for repatriation. And those people whose term had come to an end, they work on a 2-year contract, that is 20 months work, 4 months leave. And your term dates from the day that you first got to the Congo. Now, this date, for some people, has turned up in January. Some of it has turned up in earlier, and they preferred to stay on. And these people now want to leave. And some of them have already left. In fact, on the 20th of January, the first 3 engineers left. They left quite openly. Now, the people who left from the airport on Monday night, these people, they were among them families, but there were also employees who were legitimately leaving the country.
After the end of their contract?
After the end of their contract. They had finished their contract, and now they felt quite free to go back to Belgium.
And the government had made no suggestion that they were to be kept?
Not at all.
Well, how did the news sort of come out that they weren't allowed to leave?
Well, everybody turned up at the airport 2 hours early, as is the case when you leave from Lubumbashi, as there are 7 controls at the airport that you have to go through: currency, customs, immigration, all the rest of it. And all these people had turned up. They were in the process of going through when an announcement came over the loudspeaker saying, all employees of Union Miniere, their families, and also all employees of associated companies. This is the first time that they've done anything to the associated companies other than freeze their bank accounts. Had to stand by, and that they weren't to leave. Now some people were, he mentioned Brussels, and when I say he, it's Captain Mika, who is the head of the Sûreté, that's the secret police, or whatever you like to call it, in Lubumbashi. He had the instructions. He said that those people leaving for Brussels were affected. Now some people were going to go by boat from Matadi. They were flying to Kinshasa, and then they would catch the boat at Matadi and go back to Belgium, to Antwerp. Now, some of these people actually got up the gangplank and managed to get as far as the entrance of the plane, but there was somebody there with a list, and he said, no, down you go. And that was that. At the airport, there was a minister, the Minister of Mines, in whose interests this whole question must be settled as soon as possible. He was there. There was also the General Masiala, who was the general in charge of the army in Lubumbashi, and they took no part in it. Obviously, considering that the Sûreté was the power in the land and the people that they had to listen to.
Since that Monday night incident, up to when you left, has the government given any idea of what their future plan is as regards keeping the Union Miniere people?
Well, in the Congo, it takes quite a time before commands are countermanded, and orders are given and then orders change. And I'm convinced that it's for this reason that we were able to get out by road south. Admittedly, we did come out with the British Vice Consul. There were no incidents. It just took a very long time because they were very thorough. I don't know if anybody else has tried to get out south, and I don't know if anybody was able to get out on Wednesday night's Boeing.
And are the Belgians panicking there, do you think?
Well, in Lubumbashi there's no panic at all. It's just resignation, and they just can't believe that people can be as stupid as all this. But in the mining towns, the strictly mining towns, Kipushi and Kolwezi, where the money really is, the miners have just had enough. And I heard of an incident where somebody was selling a new Taunus for £250.
In other words, they're trying to sell their stuff. And
everybody is selling out. You can't send anything out. This is an order that dates back more than a week now, 10 days. And all our furniture is still there, and it's being stored, and we hope that it will be sent out when the situation eases.
If all the whites of Union Miniere do go, do you think that the Congolese have any chance of keeping the organisation going?
It's an impossibility. It's an absolute impossibility because, for instance, this rundown has been taking place since July last year, really. And one of the Congolese managing director asked to see the orders that were being held up. And they brought in 2 piles. And he looked at the first dossier, and it was for a Berlier Ben. It's a huge earth-moving vehicle. And he said, but why do you want this? And they said, well, it's got to be ordered. And he said, but haven't you got any? And they said, yes. But you've got to order a year ahead so that when the one that we've got falls, breaks down, then you've got a replacement. And he said, but why will it fall? Why will it break down? Well, you can't explain this. At Louisville, which is, I should say, the most modern automated refinery in Africa, they rejected some cathodes, something wrong with them, and they had to be reprocessed, and they were hauled up in front of the Sûreté for sabotage. And they tried to explain the technical side of this, and they said, we're not interested in that. Why Are you not producing as much copper as...
And are the Belgians fearful of the future there, Mr. Crippwell, and do they think perhaps there'll be another Stanleyville-type airdrop?
Well, up to now, they've talked about it as a joke, you know, the paratroopers standing by in Brussels, ready to come in. There hasn't been occasion to think that this was going to be necessary. But definitely now, the panic that was very much... Take two.
Mr. Crippwell, do you think the Belgians are fearful of the future, and are they looking perhaps to another Stanleyville-type airdrop?
Well, they've mentioned it as a joke. I mean, up to now, there has been no occasion to believe that this was necessary. They believed that they could leave. But the panic that is definitely under the surface, and they've lived through 7 years of stop-go life, would certainly suggest that this might be the only way to get them out if the Congolese government really plays it tough.
Mr. Crippwell, thank you very much.
Thank you.
They didn't specify just what international law this was. Mr. Crippwell, exactly what happened at the airport on Monday when these Belgian families were taken off the plane? Could you describe the sort of sequence of events?
Have it again, Mike, and turn the mic into you. There's a bit of wind on that.
Okay.
And again.
Mr. Crippwell, could you tell us what happened on Monday night when these Belgian families were taken off the aircraft at Lubumbashi airport?